Why did you put a giant picture of meat pies here?
Because I thought the meat pies looked so good. I just feel hungry whenever I watch the scene. Is that wrong?
Yeah.
When you visit soon, I'm going to have some meat pies made, and I won't tell you what's in them.
Okay, I should be recovered by that point. Hello and welcome to the Art of Costume Blogcast. I'm Elizabeth Joy Glass.
And I'm Spencer Joel Williams.
Oh, hello, Spencer Joel Williams.
I got jealous of you using your middle name. I'm using mine today, too.
I like it. We both have J middle names.
I know. I just realized that. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. I like it. Oh, what a fun surprise.
Ooh. How was your week, Elizabeth?
It was fine. It's filled with work and trying to decide what to do for Halloween.
Ooh, I know. Halloween's coming up. I'm so excited. I'm always starting to decorate the house. You know, it's funny. Usually, every year, I'm always complaining. I'm like, I can't believe Target has their Halloween decorations out in September. And now I'm going to Target. I'm like, where the f*** are the Halloween decorations? I'm getting annoyed. I need them now.
Hey, you know, we can either have it way too early or not at all, I guess.
I want it now. I want my Halloween decorations now.
What do you want, Spencer? What do you want? Although it does annoy me when in like the beginning of November and like late October I see Christmas. I'm like, no, not yet.
Yeah, well, Christmas is not as fun as Halloween. Halloween is our Christmas, you know?
I mean...
Oh, okay, just kidding.
I love them equally.
Okay.
They're like children. You can't choose just one.
Oh, I could easily pick my favorite child.
Oh.
It's Halloween. Halloween's going to college. Like Christmas, I don't know. You're going to have to deal with the hand-me-downs. Your brother's racking up a lot of student debt, so you might have to find a different route.
Good to know.
Speaking of Halloween, Elizabeth, what are we watching this week?
Spencer, today we are watching Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Woohoo, I'm so excited.
This was a movie.
This is one of the greatest movies of all time, ma'am.
Okay, this was a very good movie. It just it was not what I was expecting. Not nearly as bloody as I thought it was going to be.
What?
I thought it was going to be way gorier.
Was there not enough blood for you, ma'am? Watching like 200 people turn into meat pies?
No, it was a fine amount of blood. I just I was expecting more. I wasn't expecting it to be so cartoony with the bright red gushing streams of blood everywhere.
Yeah, well, that's Tim Burton for you. He loves some campy blood.
True. Then also, I forgot it was a musical.
Okay.
So, I mean, as soon as it started, I was like, oh yeah, it's a musical. And I don't know. It was a very quick movie, which I don't know. I thought it was longer.
Well, first impressions with Elizabeth Joy Glass. I can't believe you've never seen this movie. I love this movie. I think it's brilliant. I think it's just one of Tim Burton's best. It's so classic Tim Burton, but also it's a great story. It's a beautiful Broadway play. It pulls in Victorian penny dreadfuls. You know, the Sweeney Todd character is actually based off of a penny dreadful from the 1800s. I'm very excited. This is actually a audience request too. Lots of people told us they wanted us to do Sweeney Todd. And it's also the request of someone very special to us.
Very special.
The myth, the legend, a lord, by the way, which lords are very respected on this show, as we can all remember.
Just this lord.
Our brilliant audio engineer, Daniel White, is in the house today.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, Daniel. How's it going?
Hello. Elizabeth, I'm ashamed that you didn't like this movie more.
I'm sorry. I think I have to watch it again. I think I was distracted and just trying to figure out what was happening. And I think I need to watch it again.
You're either into musicals or you're not. Yeah. I'm surprised that Elizabeth isn't as into this musical, but Daniel, on the other hand, who I never think of as a musical person, was into Sweeney Todd.
And I'm not into musicals, actually.
Oh, well.
Yeah. I think there's only one other musical, which I don't remember the name.
Is it Mamma Mia?
No. But no, this movie was so good. It was like over theatrical. It has my favorite era, Victorian era. Mm-hmm. I love all the dark themes of it. It's so gory and bloody.
Yes, I totally agree. Victorian, I forgot. We've been doing so much Regency lately with Bridgerton and Emma. I totally forgot how much I used to be into Victorian, like the Victorian era with Penny Dreadful with Ava Green. That's one of my favorite shows. And now we're doing this, so I'm so excited. So, Daniel, before we get into the show, we want to do a quick little interview.
Sure.
First, what is it like being an audio engineer for the Art of Costume Blogcast? Is it fun? Is it hard?
Well, it's a lot of work.
Because we don't shut up ever.
No, it's just a lot of people don't understand or see what goes into audio. Right now I'm actually working on like some little example videos on my Instagram showing just like some of the behind the scenes stuff.
Ooh.
Those are really cool.
And I think I might use some of the podcast stuff a little more, just showing like how much dead space gets cut out, how much phrases and things are spliced together and like befores and afters. So it is a lot of work if you're like really putting effort into it, but it makes a big difference. So it's worth it.
And where can people find your work? On Instagram, perhaps?
Yeah, all my stuff is on Instagram at Dan White Creative.
Amazing. We're going to put that in the Instagram stories. Which one of us is harder to edit?
Wow. Why are you trying to pick fights over here?
You're really putting him on the spot, Spencer. I'm so sorry, Daniel. This is not how we usually treat our guests.
I'm asking all the hard-hitting questions. I want to assume it's me since I have lawnmowers in the background and, attacking neighbors.
It's a little of both. How about that? But to be fair, LA is like, it's a constant noise of traffic in the background, so you can't really avoid that.
Yeah. Well, we do have a special surprise for you, Daniel. This week, we are honoring you with the great privilege that only one other person has ever done on this show. You get to read this week's summary of Sweeney Todd.
Wow.
Yeah, Spencer, a real honor.
So I'm going to sit back and listen as Daniel reads the summary.
Sip your tea. All right, I'm going to edit probably like 3 takes or something, so.
Go for it.
So on today's episode summary, evil Judge Turpin lusts for the beautiful wife of London Barber. God, I'm horrible at reading.
That's okay. It's a hard job, Daniel. That's why I usually do it, because we leave the more difficult task for me,
Oh, excuse me?
I'm kidding.
Excuse me, Spencer. I see.
Evil Judge Turpin lusts for a beautiful wife of a London barber and wrongfully imprisons him in Australia? Is that where he ended up getting imprisoned? I did not know that. He imprisons him for a crime he did not commit, returning after 15 years and calling himself Sweeney Todd. The madman vows revenge, applying his razor to unlucky customers and shuttling bodies down to Mrs. Lovett, who uses them for her meat pie shop.
Tasty.
I love meat pie. Though many fall to his blade, he will not be satisfied until he slits Turpin's throat. Also, with that, consider this your spoiler warning.
Beautiful, Daniel. Beautiful. Just excellent grade A work. I could not have done it better myself.
Yeah.
The best yet.
The best yet? Okay, take it easy, Elizabeth. He's not going to do this every week.
Oh, I know.
And I can always re-record and edit it in, so if I don't like it.
All right, Elizabeth, bring us into our behind the wardrobe facts.
Today, we have the power couple, director Tim Burton and costume designer Colleen Atwood. The two of them together on a film.
Ugh.
What more could anybody want? It's going to be beautiful.
Absolutely brilliant. There is no one greater than Colleen Atwood. She is the legend.
She is the legend. Do you want me to delve into her massive notable work?
Yeah, there's just one or two.
Oh, yeah, just a small list. We have the 1990 adaptation of The Handmaid's Tale Edward Scissorhands, Silence of the Lambs, Philadelphia, Wyatt Earp, Little Women, 1994, which she was nominated for her first Oscar, Mars Attack, Beloved, her second Oscar nomination, Sleepy Hollow, her third Oscar nomination, Planet of the Apes, Chicago, her first Oscar win, Big Fish, A Series of Unfortunate Events, her fifth Oscar nomination, Memoirs of a Geisha, her second Oscar win, Mission Impossible 3, 9, her sixth or seventh Oscar nomination, Public Enemies.
We're losing count.
Alice in Wonderland, another Oscar win, Snow White and the Huntsman, another Oscar nomination, Into the Woods, another Oscar nomination, Alice Through the Looking Glass, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, another Oscar win. She also did the sequel. And then Bombshell.
Wow. I did not realize how many Oscars she has.
That is just her films. That's just her films. Do you want to know what else everyone would know her from?
Oh, I already know, but please tell everyone.
My Chemical Romance, Welcome to the Black Parade, that stunning masterpiece, that is her. That is her.
That is art.
She also did the original superhero designs for the CW's Flash, Arrow, and Supergirl.
Wow. There's no words.
There's no words. She's the best there is. What else can you say about somebody who has done such amazing things?
I mean, anytime you see that Colleen Atwood's getting ready to do a film, you just already know it's going to be amazing. Thinking all the way back to like Edward Scissorhands and The Silence of the Lambs, Mars Attack's one of my personal favorites. It's just she's defined costume design for so long.
She's defined costume design, and she's really had an impact on, Tim Burton's just iconic look, because she does the majority of his costumes. I don't know if there's a film since Edward Scissorhands that she hasn't done the costumes for him.
I'm not sure, but I'm sure there's not very many. She's also incredibly nice. I've gone to meet her before, and she is just super sweet and humble when you meet her in person, too. She's the best.
She is. I saw her at, she did a panel at FITM, so I got to see her speak there. She's so nice.
Yes.
But for Sweeney Todd, she was asked to do, Victorian era, but they wanted for it to be raw and dark and much more, true to life than the kind of polished version that gets presented a lot in Victorian era film. She said, my root isn't goth. To me, the influence was the makeup and the styling of the old black and white movies. The lips and the eyes are dark, the face is light. That's the feeling we were going for, more than a conscious goth look. So, while it's like definitely this film is associated with kind of like goth punk style, that's not what they were going for.
Yeah, people want to call it goth, but it's also at the same time also true to like the Victorian period in a way. Going through hardship, throwing clothes together, very dark, very decayed, lots of poverty. So
yeah, I didn't get the goth piece of it either. It didn't feel goth to me. It just seemed more Victorian era more than anything.
Yeah, I agree too. And my thing with Tim Burton films and Colleen Atwood is people love to just always say that Tim Burton is all about black and white. And, like when you go on TikTok and you see the kids recreating Tim Burton looks, it's always just like black and white. And that is not at all what's happening here. And actually, if you look at Sweeney Todd, they do use a lot of color. And Colleen Atwood is brilliant at using color to convey emotion and storytelling. For example, when we see like the couple dream sequences, suddenly it's super colorful.
Yeah.
But when you come back into the present day, it is very dark and drab, but there is pieces of color throughout to really express the moods of the certain colors. Mrs. Lovett wears some red. Sacha Baron Cohen's character wears lots of color.
Joanna's color is definitely blue.
Yeah. With that, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. You don't have to leave. You're always welcome to stay in studio with us anytime, but we're going to take a break and we're going to get to the meat of this film. Get it?
Definitely getting to the meat.
Very meaty.
My favorite.
Thank you for joining us, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
All right, Elizabeth, are you ready to have some bloody, meaty fun today?
I am. I still can't believe they baked the people into pies and then people were eating them.
Okay. I personally think, I was thinking about this when I was watching the movie. If I were turned into a meat pie, I think I would actually taste pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Oh, like, I'm sure the pies were good. But, like, those people are gonna have problems. You cannot eat other people and not end up being... It's an issue. You shouldn't eat people.
Oh, okay. I'll Google it after. I just feel like I eat a lot. Like this weekend, I had like some pizza. I had In-N-Out. I had Popeyes. I just feel like I would make for a good meat pie, but we could talk about this later.
Yeah, no, don't eat people.
All right. Well, we're starting today's episode. We're going to be breaking down a movie sort of song by song instead of scene by scene, picking out our favorite costumes from each of our favorite songs of the film. Starting with No Place Like London, a very awesome song. It's also the first time we see Sweeney Todd. He's had a pretty long 15 years, as you can imagine. So much so, he basically came out looking like a vampire. It happens. Prison looks good on him. I'm into it.
Yeah. Prison looks pretty good on him. And they did want him to just look thoroughly beaten down. USA quotes Colleen Atwood as saying, he comes off the boat crusted with salt. He's been through a terrifying time in prison. He's hardened to life. He enters the world with a shell on, like an insect shell. His jacket has a sheen. So it's like, yeah, he does look crusty.
Crusty. That's never a good adjective to use anyone. He does look crusty. Yeah, like the sea has really kind of given him that fun, flowing beach hair.
Yeah, I will say his hair was improved by his time in prison.
I love his costume. I think the like leather duster he's wearing looks very good on him. But then I also love this other character too, played by Jamie Campbell Bower, Anthony. He's a nice lad, a good friend of Sweeney Todd's, and I love the blue color on him.
I love him because he's clearly just like, he's a wide-eyed kid, like, doesn't really understand how horrible life can be, even though he has, like, it seems like lived his life on ships, on, like, he's seen a good chunk of the world, but, like, he's just, like, so excited for life.
Someone needs to tell him that he's moving to Victorian era, like, London.
Yeah.
Things are not going well. But like I mentioned earlier, one of the first times we really see color in this film is a flashback sequence to when Sweeney Todd and Lucy were together. It's really beautiful. It's very like, the costumes are stunning, lots of color, lots of like flowers in the background. I feel so happy. The scene like smells good, if you know what I mean. Like everything about it just feels warm and inviting.
It does. And I especially love this because I'm like, it's so romanticized because it's also like a little hazy. All the colors are like, they're pastel-y. And it's like, oh, I wonder if his life really was this good or if he's just like had such a hard time of it. He made it seem better than it was.
Maybe that's how he was remembering it when he was in prison somewhere, looking all crusty.
Probably.
But the textiles used in Lucy's costumes, though, are so stunning. I want to touch them.
I know. It's so beautiful. It's like, it's very like mid 18th century, like just starting out in the Victorian era. You're not quite there yet, but it's beautiful. And it's just like, clearly she's a delicate flower. She's got like the little like petal pattern with the hat. And it's just like, oh, look at this perfect domestic little family.
And Johnny Depp's coat, too. That's a nice coat.
He looks so good in this flashback. I'm like, oh, you're just like the perfect little family right here. Okay.
I think Johnny Depp looks great in every form. Sweeney Todd, even Edward Scissorhands, Parts of the Caribbean. Johnny Depp has got it going on.
He's got it going on. But he looks particularly good here. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like because of Pirates of the Caribbean, like, he's kind of like cemented in my mind as just like a middle-aged man always. But it's like, oh my gosh, he looks so young. Because he is so young in this movie, even though it was made after Pirates of the Caribbean. But
true. All right. Well, moving on to one of my favorite songs in a film, and the introduction of one of my all-time favorite people on this planet, Helena Bonham Carter. She's just the greatest. I love her. Every role she ever does. And she actually has a nice voice, a nice little singing voice, I think.
She does. I was not expecting this. It was great, though. And they wanted her to kind of make her look like a crow who's just like picked up things here or there. And I'm like, oh, I think you accomplished that.
Yeah, there's like smashed up, dried up bread everywhere. There's some roaches all over her kitchen. She's going through it.
She's going through it. And like, even with her dress, it's like, I feel like there's a base dress under there, but then with like the little bit of red, some of the trim, it looks like she like kept adding stuff to it.
Yeah, I love like the peak of red that was always coming out from underneath her dress. It was a lot of fun. It showed that, you know, there's still a little bit of color left in her. She does fancy a little bit of dressing up moment, but still like she really doesn't have the resources to really go crazy with her outfits. I like this quote you have on the left. Do you want to read it?
She was somebody who almost was like a crow. She was always picking up a bit of this or that up. Everyone is a little grimy in the movie. As she got more money, she got a couple of new dresses. I used a lot of authentic fabrics. Her dresses were a range of color, but subtle and controlled. There was always a hint of red peeking out, but very low-key. A lot of her stuff had a sheen or beading. I thought she'd be attracted to a bit of obvious glitter. As for fingerless gloves, people wore them up in the period. They've been around.
They were there. Don't question it.
I know. I love that because it's like when this movie came out, like fingerless gloves were a thing. Like I had a pair of lace fingerless gloves that I would wear to school. And I love people must have been like, oh, so you're picking up on the trend? And she's like, no. She was like, these have been around for a long time. Don't act like it's something new.
Come on. This is a period film, people. Colleen knows what she's doing. Don't ever question her. How dare you? But yeah, I love Mrs. Lovett's initial costume. I think it's lots of fun. Very weathered, and I love watching her transition throughout the film as she starts to make some money off of her delicious pies.
Yeah. Also, Sweeney Todd, we get to kind of see what's underneath of his jacket. And while it's subtle, she really did try to have like a transition for him. She says, as he starts barbering, he becomes part of the world he's living in, a world where people use recycled clothing. The jacket he wears to work was influenced by workwear of the period. I really felt he needed some heavy weight to his feet, like he was dragging weight. And his boots are quite heavy and have nails around outside of the sole on top. You get a kick of silver when he hits the pedal of the barber chair. His costumes are simple. He's not conscious of what he's wearing. Sweeney Todd's not conscious of much in this movie outside of his need for revenge.
Yeah, he's consumed by revenge. Sometimes he doesn't realize he has blood all over him. He's just like, okay, who's next?
Yeah, he doesn't realize it. And I love what she says by recycled, because like he looks like he's wearing the same thing throughout the whole film. But when you pay attention, it is different. It's just like variations of the same thing. And he really does always seem weighed down by his shoes and whatever jacket he's wearing at the time. Because he's just like someone who cannot leave the past alone.
Yeah. And what I love about this movie in terms of the costumes is that the costumes are subtle. We were talking about this during the break. Sometimes good costume design, costumes know when it's time to like take a step back. And that's what Colleen Atwood did. This film isn't about the costumes because the people of London at this time were not all about fancy costumes. They're recycling, a lot of their clothing. So the costumes are great as in they tell the story of each of the characters, but also they're not taking center stage because, this film is supposed to feel very realistic and set in the period. Realistic in a sense of, where they are in the world right now. And so the costumes are really great in aiding to that storyline.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people forget, like, the Victorian era was a great time of prosperity for England. Much of the 1800s was very prosperous for England, but for the rich and, like, the upper middle class, those who didn't have money, it was horrible. And I feel like this film really reflects that.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of things not going so well for people, the next song we talk about...
This was awful. This is so awful.
It's called Poor Thing, and we get a little bit of a background on what happened to Lucy after Sweeney Todd was sent to prison. And things were not great. Like you said, the rich seem to be having a great old time. We're witnessing a fun, looks like a masquerade type party. Lots of actually really brilliant costumes here. The underlying story of the scene is terrible, but the costumes are brilliant. Lots of like black and white stripes, which feels very Tim Burton. Lots of reds and like bright colors.
Yeah, this is such an awful scene, and she's wearing the same dress from the dream sequence, and it's like you can just tell how out of place she is among these people and how trapped she is, and it's like, oh. And then Turpin with like his devil mask, I'm like, oh. Ugh. So on point.
So creepy. Let's just move on. But the costumes in this scene are brilliant though, so we had to talk about it. This brings me to one of my other favorite sequences. It's the Greenfinch and the Linnet Bird, as well as the mashup with Joanna. And this is when we introduce Sweeney Todd's daughter, Joanna, and Anthony's back. And we have this beautiful scene where Joanna's just sitting by the window, just singing out the window to God knows who. But she looks...
Anybody that'll listen.
Literally. She's basically... This is like the Victorian era version of Twitter, where she has a bird next to her and she's just singing out a window to anyone who will listen.
You're like, anybody out there? No? Okay.
Her dress
You're not going to listen to me? Okay.
Her dress is beautiful, though, just sitting by the window looking like Cinderella over here.
Yeah, clearly, because after her mother, quote unquote, died and Sweeney Todd was, sent to prison, she was taken in by Judge Turpin, and it's like, clearly he took like very good care of her, as creepy as it is. And it's like, oh yes, you are a beautiful little trapped bird.
Oh my gosh, I didn't think of the symbolism with the bird and her right next to it.
Yeah. Yeah, she sings about being in a bigger cage than the bird, but she's just as trapped.
How did that fly over my head like that? Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But the song Joanna is one of my favorite songs from the entire film. I'm a big musical nerd and Broadway. We didn't really mention it, but Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. It's an adaptation of Stephen Sondheim and Hugh Wheeler's Tony Award-winning 1979 musical of the same name. It's also based off of an original play. So the music in this film is just so incredible, very Sondheim, very quick and witty. But the song Joanna to me is just so beautiful. I love to sing it in a shower like I'm a trapped little bird. It's not the case, but it gets me in the feels.
Yeah, this song is great, especially because poor Anthony, he's just like, oh, I love him because it's just the most ridiculous but very Victorian trope of seeing a beautiful woman, and obviously this is the person I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with, so I will do absolutely anything to be with her. So I'm just like, aw, Anthony.
Love at first sight via window. I wish dating was like that in real life, instead of like using all these terrible dating apps, which I'm clearly not very good at. I'm just gonna start walking by people's windows and start singing. Do you think that'll work?
Should I start expecting calls?
Speaking of other weird people, whenever Timothy Spall is in a film, I'm already creeped out. I cannot see this man without thinking of Peter Pettigrew. I just can't. There's nothing he could do that will convince me otherwise.
I love him. He's like he's such a good actor, and he apparently has like a particular love of doing movies in this time period. And it's like, he just looks like he was made to be the creepy guy in a Victorian era film. Like, it fits him perfectly.
Yes. That's such a good way to describe it. Like, that's his thing. The creepy sidekick guy in any like Victorian era film or story. But
he is the sidekick of a arguably creepier person. Played by, okay, I think this is really what turned me off for this film a little bit. Having Alan Rickman play such a horrible human being. We
love Alan Rickman so much.
I love Alan Rickman so much. And I just like, my brain is like, I can't do this. I was like, I hate this character. He's awful. He's awful, but he does kind of look good.
He does. His costumes are very sophisticated and nice.
Yeah, and Colleen Atwood's quoted as saying, "The judge had a little poetry in his heart. His heyday was pre-Victorian, and he clung to those kind of clothes. His clothing had once been fine, but he was very unkempt and grubby and unshaven, but harkening back to a time when he was on top of the world in the beginning of the movie." So true.
That's very interesting, too, because he is wearing kind of like the same clothes, but when you see him in a dream sequence, it's very colorful. But then when you see him in the present time, it's almost like the same clothes, but they just like lost their color, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, because clearly it's more of a Regency era look to him in the dream sequence. And then present day, Victoria, London, it's just like that, but like shoved into the Victorian era. Like, he's like, oh, I guess I have to update myself now.
Moving on to a very fun, interesting scene.
I think this was one of my favorite scenes because it was just so ridiculous.
It's so fun. Pirelli's Miracle Elixir. We have to talk about this scene. I did not realize this was such a Baron Cohen until I rewatched it for the podcast. It never dawned on me, but now that I've rewatched it for, I've seen it tons of times. It's so funny. He's such a brilliant actor, and he's so good at playing these really high energy, funny, campy characters. He deserves more credit. He's not just Borat to me. He is actually a very great character actor.
I know. I love him in everything except Borat. Like, can't stand him I can't. Anything else, he's brilliant. But yeah, this is an amazing look, and it's just like this very strange hybrid of like a Spanish bullfighter with like some French influence in there. And I'm just like, this is so bizarre. And apparently like I was watching an interview with Colleen Atwood, and she was joking with Sacha Baron Cohen. She's like, you've had almost more fittings than Mrs. Lovett just so they could get this one costume right.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's literally so crazy, so campy, but also it like sticks out so much. Like, that this person is, Pirelli's a fraud, and he stands out as this like big energy costume because he's not actually supposed to belong here. And I think it's quite brilliant that the costume was able to tell so much of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love this scene. I love his character, especially when he comes to visit Sweeney Todd and you find out that he was like the boy who swept up his hair. He's not actually this like foreign exotic barber. That fur coat and top hat he's wearing, I'm just like, oh my gosh, perfect. Perfect.
It's so crazy. But I do love that crowd scene too so much because Mrs. Lovett, I love her little hat. It's very simple, but really like elevated her costume so much where she felt like a sophisticated lady of the time. But also, there's a little bit of a cameo in the audience that a lot of people probably haven't noticed. And this actor actually goes uncredited. You've seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right?
I know exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Anthony Head, who plays Giles at Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he has a speaking role, and he's not credited in the film.
I saw him, and then I was like, oh, we're going to see him again. Nope.
No. They booked him for those like 2 lines.
Is he friends with Tim Burton or something?
I don't know. I need to ask somebody because I'm like, how did you book Anthony Head and then just use him for 2 lines?
Because I thought he was going to be like someone who had something to do with like, his, being sent to prison and like, the whole thing with his wife. Like, I thought there was going to be more, and then it's just you never see him again. I was like, okay.
He must have been like nearby on set one day, walking by with a cup of coffee, and they're like, "Hey, can you say these lines for us real quick? We'll pay you X amount of money." He must have been like, "Sure, why not?" So, as Elizabeth mentioned, Pirelli appears at Sweeney Todd's barbershop wearing his ridiculous fur coat and top hat. This man could not get any more ridiculous. And Sweeney Todd does not enjoy him at all. So much so, this lends to the first kill of the movie. And it's brilliant. I love it. I love all the gore. Very bloody.
It is brilliant. And I love, it's not so much that like, I think that he's threatening to like take over his business, because Sweeney Todd clearly doesn't care about the business aspect of it. He's like, you know who I am. You must die.
Yeah, it's very quick and scary. I love how like tacky and campy the blood in this film is. Like clearly they just like put in a bunch of tubes and like we're just pumping out as much blood as possible to make it so theatrical. I thought it was hilarious, actually.
Clearly. Yeah, it was funny. I wasn't expecting it, but it was funny.
And then when the little boy Toby was like sitting on the box with Pirelli's like hand still twitching, I was like, he's still alive. This is terrible.
It was so bad.
It is awful. Whew. All right, well, this is getting bloody, so let's take a break to get ourselves together, and we'll jump into the rest of this movie.
Spencer, are you ready for the Pretty Woman song?
I feel like I need a good shave, a very close, nice shave. So, yes, let's do it.
Very close, nice shave that I was annoyed about because I was like, we could have avoided so many problems if you just murdered him right then and there.
Come on, Sweeney Todd. This movie could have been 20 minutes.
Yeah, he missed his opportunity. Joanna could have not been thrown into a lunatic asylum. So much could have been different. I hated that scene.
Oh, that was scary. Is it true that they use the hair of asylum patients to make wigs?
I think so. Probably.
Well, we're starting this segment with Pretty Woman. Like Elizabeth summed up for you, the judge comes for a nice shave. But of course, Anthony comes in and ruins everything. So he gets out and storms out. Very pissed. The thing about this movie that makes me crazy, it's I consider the film a horror film in ways. Yes, it's a musical, but it has lots of horror elements. When he's just dragging his blade across people's faces to shave them, it gives me the creeps because I do not like sharp things. Knives, they scare me.
A lot of places I saw called it a slasher musical.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's so true.
It is a slasher musical. It's so funny. It gives me the creeps every time. So Sweeney Todd's pretty pissed that he missed out on his one chance. He blew it. Let's all be real. But Sweeney Todd is like a very angry man all the time and loves to just throw his anger on everyone around him, blame everyone but himself. Has a little bit of a yelling match with Mrs. Lovett. But then I get like a little bit of an idea of how they could turn things around. This brings us to A Little Priest, a great, horribly fun song where they're basically talking about all the different neighbors and how, nice they might be as a nice little meal.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want your local priest in a pie? Like, it won't garner you any sort of attention when he doesn't come back down from getting a haircut, but
It's actually amazing how much they got away with, but
yeah, I felt like this movie only took place over a week though. I feel like it wasn't that long.
Right? It didn't seem to be a long time. And I had forgotten too when I was watching this. I was like, wait, doesn't the judge go to his chair? Like, shouldn't that be the end? And, once we saw Pretty Woman. I was like, oh, okay, no, that's not how it goes. But this is when we start to see a lot of the costumes, throughout this movie, because a lot of people just start coming by Sweeney Todd's barbershop and just kill after kill. Lots of different Victorian men keep coming through, and he's just hacking them all up one by one.
Yeah, I love the one guy he lets go because he brought his wife and young daughter with him, and he's like, oh, crap.
Oh, yeah. He's like, oh, man, what do we do?
It's like, I can't murder you now.
Sweeney's having a good time, but I just love seeing all the different gentlemen come through in all their different coats. Just, like I mentioned earlier, just very period. But like doesn't take center stage. All the colors are very close to the same. So it really gives life to the actual story, which is what I think is so brilliant of the costumes of this film.
Yeah.
And then Anthony finds his good gal friend Joanna hanging out at an asylum now that, she's clearly made it clear that she wants to leave the mad judge's house.
Yeah. And Sweeney Todd, he's like committed to helping Anthony like get her. But he's also just so preoccupied with his revenge. I'm like, dude, can you take like 2 seconds? Maybe just go grab your daughter.
I love it particularly when they start to make some money at the pie shop because Mrs. Lovett's character, she just comes to life. Like she even dyes her hair a little bit. It has like that real red color.
Yeah.
Her dresses are a little bit more fashionable. She's starting to live her best life. It's still not like, she's not wearing like incredible Cinderella ball gown, but she's, it's a little bit more of a fresher look for her.
Yeah. Like they're clearly new. She clearly got something a little bit nicer. She is very much trying to get the local old lady out all the time.
Oh, yeah, she's so annoying. She's like, shoo, get that lady out of here.
Get her out. And I'm like, this poor, like, beggar woman, like, just leave her, give her a pie and leave her alone. But she's also the only one who realizes what's up with them.
Yeah, she's very suspicious. Her costume was actually quite interesting, too, because it was very dark and it felt like it was like a corpse's costume, the way that like you'd see in like a casket or something. It was very dark and like lots of like old lace that was kind of like veiling her, which probably is to the character of trying to cover up her identity. But yeah, it reminded me of like a corpse's costume.
Why did you put a giant picture of meat pies here?
Because I thought the meat pies look so good. I just feel hungry whenever I watch this scene. Is that wrong?
I don't know. Probably.
I feel like I'm going to need some therapy after our spooky season here.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm good on the meat pie for right now.
Are you sure? Well, okay. We could talk about this later. Maybe we could send some meat pies to each other. When you visit soon, I'm going to have some meat pies made, and I won't tell you what's in them.
Okay, I should be recovered by that point.
Well, actually, I'm feeling a little hungry. I think it's time for us to take a real quick break.
Take a break. Get a snacky snack. Come right back.
We're going to come back and finish up this movie. We're almost there already. It's a quick movie. Elizabeth, are you ready to take a little trip by the sea, hang out at the beach?
I'm always ready for a little trip by the sea.
Well, it's been pretty clear throughout the film that Mrs. Lovett has a little bit of a crush on Sweeney Todd.
Oh, yeah. And it's also clear she, like, kind of knew who he was before he was taken away. And I think she's had a little crush on him since back then.
Yeah, there's definitely some history there that he's not very aware of. By the Sea is one of the most famous scenes from a musical ever, and rightfully so. It's brilliant. And this is where a lot of the costumes, this is really where Colleen Atwood had some fun with this film.
Oh, yeah.
She got to do a little bit of a dream montage, lots of color, lots of different costumes. It's brilliant.
They go from, like, a drab hillside to, like, just fully on the beach. And he looks so miserable in his black and white stripes. Well, she just looks like she's having the time of her life in her cute little, like, bloomer, blue, red, and white bathing suit with the ribbons in her hair.
It's so funny because he's clearly just like sitting there, like she's singing around him. He just happens to be there and she's just envisioning different outfits on him. Another thing I noticed, which I think is quite brilliant, is, my thing that I always get frustrated in films is like when the aging and dying feels off, like when they go somewhere, an outfit's too clean, you go to the desert, but you're like, all your whites are perfectly white. And this scene, everything is perfectly clean and fresh and new. And it makes sense here because this is a dream. So why would she envision herself in dirty clothes? All the whites are perfectly white. It's brand new. It looks like they just took this out of the plastic from the rolling rack. They put it on and they got to work.
Yeah, I love it. It's adorable. I love the inspiration from actual like swimsuits of the time. But then I love like when her vision of a little seaside cabin and she's in just like, it's like honey, frilly and like pinky reds. I don't know if they're for you. And he just looks terrified.
I love it so much. This is how I imagine Helena Bonham Carter dresses when she's at home already. And like a big dramatic red gown with her crazy hair. It's just so fun. I really want that black and white swimsuit, actually. It feels very me.
And then I love the promenade scene where he has the white striped suit and she's that dress. Oh my gosh.
It's so beautiful. It's so fun. It feels so warm, even though they're wearing like he's still wearing black and white, but still feels very warm.
It looks amazing. She looks like a peppermint stick,
like a beautiful candy cane.
Like a beautiful candy cane. It's a beautiful dress also. Like when you get to see all the little details, I'm like, oh my gosh, they like really went all out.
Yeah, it's very structured. There must have been so many yards of fabric in this dress. There's so much draping and little like fluences in it. Oh, it's crazy. It's
a beautiful piece.
And then they get married, which was also brilliant.
I love this part. Because it's just like, he doesn't care. But he also looks mildly terrified of what will happen if he says no.
Yeah, he's just like, I don't even think he said I do. He's just like, okay. Something to that extent.
Okay. He's like, all right.
And she's clearly just been like thinking about this nonstop forever.
Thinking about it nonstop. Doesn't care that he's not into it. And I hate that you can't see the wedding dress because it's so cute.
It is.
It's like white and like satin and lacy and like exactly what a woman would want for a wedding dress back then.
Yeah, there's like a little bows all over it, which is ridiculous. It's just brilliant. I love it.
It's so good.
But it's so crazy, the textiles and the trims she used too. It's so like to the point, very on brand for the period.
And then they come back to reality. And I love this transition because like she's ending her dream with like them all sitting on the beach. Like they are sitting on the hill, but it's bright. It's cheery. You can see the like blues in what she's wearing. But then the light shifts to what it has been this whole time, very dark, very grimy, kind of green, and all the color's gone. They all look like they're wearing black and white.
Yeah, back to reality, very drab. And also, Toby came out of nowhere. He wasn't there earlier. All of a sudden, like, this dirty boy is sitting next to Mrs. Lovett.
He was flying a kite.
Oh, that's cute. Well, now he's back, and he's looking like he hasn't showered in, like, a couple years, all dirty. It's just like back to reality, and Sweeney Todd looks just as happy now as he did in the dream sequence.
Yeah, I love she like straight up doesn't care as long as he's physically there.
Oh gosh, let's go on a picnic soon by the ocean.
Okay, that sounds good.
This brings us to one of my favorite songs. It's quite ridiculous. It's called Not While I'm Around, and I will not pain you by singing it because it's quite awful. But I love this song because it's so ridiculous and funny. And we actually get to see Mrs. Lovett in her final costume. Actually, we're getting into final costumes for everybody. Mrs. Lovett's costume is very sophisticated and nice now, even though she's taking a break. She's exhausted, but the structure of it is beautiful.
It's beautiful. This is clearly like the most expensive gown she's got. It's got like layer upon layer, drapes, lace all over it. And I love the black, white, and like that silvery gray, because it's like, oh, I'm a sophisticated lady now, but she's still doing like just as shady.
Hey, she's a baker. She's making some delicious pies. No one asked where we get the meat for the McDonald's burgers, so why are we asking about how she makes her pies?
I mean, this is why I don't eat McDonald's burgers.
Oh, me neither. This podcast is not sponsored by McDonald's.
No.
Helena Bonham Carter has such a beautiful like structure too. I love like her shoulders and her collarbones.
She like, I'm like, you are someone who's built to wear costumes, because like anything you see her in, like it's the thing where like she wears it doesn't wear her, and like she just makes it come alive, and I'm like, she's perfect.
What's this? Oh my gosh, I didn't realize I'm wearing my Helena Bonham Carter shirt.
What?
Woo! That was an accident. I'll post a picture on the Instagram for everybody if you really care. Narrator's voice, they don't.
Yeah.
This brings us to the grand finale of Sweeney Todd, and that was quite the emotional roller coaster.
I know, because I'm like, Mrs. Lovett, she's the real villain of this, because she could have told Sweeney Todd that, like, hey, your wife took some arsenic and like went crazy, FYI. And I feel like he would have spent his time trying to get her better and taking care of her, because that's clearly the kind of man he was, and like not trying to murder everybody.
I feel like he probably would have mercy killed her, honestly. Like, I
don't think so. Maybe at like this point, if she hadn't already been dead.
Yeah.
But I think if it was like he comes in and Mrs. Lovett's like, oh, you're that guy, that crazy lady on the street is your wife, FYI, I think he would have just taken care of her and been a normal barber.
I don't want to go as far as saying that she was the villain. What she did was messed up, but also she's just like driven by love. And so
a very messed up love.
A very messed up love, yes. But like, I don't feel like she did it with.
I mean, she's the one who gives him the idea to like murder people for meat anyway.
Yeah, but
because he's just like super angry, and then she's like, let's channel this anger towards murder for my pie shop.
Those crazy kids, they do all sorts of weird stuff these days.
Yeah. Like her and the judge.
Oh my gosh. No, the judge is terrible.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think they're on the same level. I don't think she intended for the crazy homeless lady outside to end up getting killed in the shop, but
No, but she knows who she is and should have told him.
She should have mentioned it for sure. Either way, she gets tossed into the oven like a baked potato. So rest in peace, Mrs. Lovett.
That was awful.
Also coming down the trash chute would be the judge, Turpin, and Peter Pettigrew also comes down the chute. So just like that, the movie basically wraps up with Sweeney Todd finally getting his revenge. And
I know.
It is what it is. Bada bing, bada boom.
Almost murdering his daughter. Hey. I was not expecting that. I'm like, dude, clearly that is not a young boy. Just take his hat off.
Right. Also, Joanna could have said something like, hey, Anthony just told me to hide here. You're friends with Anthony, right? She could have said something, but of course she just...
Yeah. She could have been like, my name's Joanna. Anthony told me to hide here.
I'm your daughter. But instead, she was like, okay, bye.
I don't think she knows who her parents are.
No, but she was put here for a reason. But anyways, it doesn't really matter.
Well, Anthony doesn't know Joanna's his daughter either.
That's true. These people need to have a conversation instead of hiding so many secrets from each other. We need to have a group family therapy session. Mrs. Lovett, Mr. Todd, Anthony, and Joanna. We could work some things out. Even little Toby. If we said, hey, Toby, we're making some bacon sandwiches out of our neighbors, he probably would have been on board.
I think he would have been on board too if he realized Mrs. Lovett was in on it. I think if things had been explained to him better, it would have been fine.
Yeah. But instead, he comes down and he slices open Sweeney Todd's throat, which I think Sweeney Todd really kind of just lets him because he's really like done with life at this point. Bleeds all over his beautiful wife, and that's it. And that is Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, everyone. That was crazy. I love this movie.
That was a wild movie. I need to watch it again. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. It's just a lot. It is beautiful, though. Like, if nothing else, it is a beautiful film.
I love this movie. I could watch it over and over. Definitely my Spotify playlist is going to be nothing but Sweeney Todd for the next couple of weeks now. It just really reminded me how much I love the music. It's so great.
Joanna over and over again.
Yep. And no one's going to harm you. Also, Colleen Atwood, just bravo. She's just
oh my goodness.
The legend.
Yes.
The costumes were absolutely stunning. That's it. You know, it is what it is. She's a legend. The costumes are brilliant. Wrap. Well, Elizabeth, spooky season here is not over yet. We have some more, I dare to say, terrifying content coming, but I'll leave that up to you. What are we watching next week?
Next week, we are watching Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah.
Ooh, you never saw Sweeney Todd, and I've never seen Dracula, and oh boy, was this something.
Are you okay, Spencer?
Yeah, it was crazy, but I'm so excited to talk about it. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings. So the next week's episode is going to be another hand-holding episode for me.
Another hand-holding episode for everybody. Another Oscar-nominated one.
Ooh,
so we got back-to-back Oscar nominees. First, Sweeney Todd, Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Now, Bram Stoker's Dracula. We're just among greats.
We know award-winning content when we see it. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you to Daniel White, our audio engineer, for joining us for the intro of this episode.
Yes, thank you, Daniel, and everybody have a fabulous week. The Art of Costume Blogcast is hosted by Elizabeth Joy Glass and Spencer Williams.
Produced by Elizabeth Joy Glass, with associate producer Spencer Williams.
Our sound design and engineering is done by Daniel White.
Follow us on Instagram at The Art of Costume Pod.
Or visit the artofcostumeblogcast.com for all blogcast updates.
For more costume reviews, deep dives, and interviews, visit theartofcostume.com.
A blog dedicated to highlighting the best in costume design.